I'm Dr. Todd,
And I'm Matthew Teague.
and this is Magician's Workshop. Matthew Teague is a magician known for his innovative approach to magic, blending classic sleight of hand with fresh modern ideas. That is true. With a passion for both performing and creating magic, Matthew has developed unique effects that have gained recognition in the magic community. His work showcases a deep understanding of deception, audience management, and the psychology behind great magic. Whether on the stage or behind the scenes, Matthew continues to push the boundaries of what is possible in the art of illusion. So, and then the AI said,
Oh wow, that's
yeah, so
AI did that.
whew,
That's incredible. Can you send it?
yeah.
I could use it.
I'll send that to you. I'm using that good Chat GPT.
Oh, cool.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
it's the kind you have to pay for that actually does a really good job. Yeah, I'll send that to you. I love copy. It's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Uh,
No, the ChatGPT has been incredible. Dana actually did a thing the other day, and I couldn't believe it was pulling stuff up. She was like, "Were you on Don't Blink?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I didn't know that." And I was like, "Yeah." So it was cool that they were able to somehow find these little things that I had done. Or even bring up Magicopolis, and that was mind blowing to me because I forgot all about that. That was a job that was like a bar that Eric Tate was like
oh, okay.
performing at back in the day, and he used to have his buddies come out and perform every once in a while, and I was one of them. So yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
it was cool. It kind of brought back some memories. It was like, oh, this is incredible. AI is just
It's
too much these
crazy.
days.
It
Yeah.
it it knows everything, and it's really weird how small the magic community is. It's not a big, it's a very small, tight knit kind of group.
Wow, yeah, it's awesome because I've finally kind of reconnected with everybody over the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, and it's been incredible just to work on stuff and build again. I think it's really important to be around other magicians because you get so inspired by each other, and yeah, if you can find the people, it's the best because it's like um yeah, the whole iron sharpening iron. You're just always
Yep.
working on ideas together, so you're pushing each other's ideas further.
What and you're in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
So what's the magic scene like in Wisconsin?
It's growing all the time, I think, it's Milwaukee's magic scene was always a little bit stronger just because the city was bigger.
Hmm.
So as a kid, I used to go out there a lot. Not a kid, but as a teenager, when I first moved to Wisconsin, Milwaukee was always like, I got to go to Milwaukee to the Magicopolis. They had a magic shop out there, and really great magicians. There was a magician named Mark Bond in Milwaukee who was just like the best magician you'd never heard of. Just an incredible bar magician. And he was my mentor for several years at this place called the Safe House in Milwaukee. And that was a really great, like, learning experience for me because Mark was like just unbelievably skilled. And so to be able to work with him was great because he was kind of like almost like a prodigy as a kid in Milwaukee too. And it had always kind of practiced and worked on his stuff. And even like there was so many magicians that were inspired by him growing up in Milwaukee, like famous ones, like Brett Daniels, talks about him
Oh,
and
wow.
coming out. And yeah, he Mark was a huge influence to so many. And the scene misses him dearly. He passed away maybe 10 years ago, but really great magician. There's other magicians that came out of Milwaukee, like Ben Seidman was a childhood friend of
Oh,
my
wow, really? Okay.
Milwaukee magician. Um, yeah, really great magic out of Milwaukee. Out of Wisconsin, I think in general, I think Wisconsin is kind of becoming a little bit of a hotspot for magic, to be honest with you. A lot of the friends that I made out here just went on to do incredible things. Like O's lived in Neenah for a while, like when he was younger, and then he went off to college. But then, like he would come hang out in Madison, in my early 20s and stuff, because his sister went to college here. It's like Wisconsin had a lot of cool stuff going
That
on
is
back in the day.
wild.
Yeah, the people I got to meet was unbelievable.
I mean, let's segue into that. What's your earliest memory of magic?
Like I don't know. It's funny to me. Magic is, like that moment when you imagine anything can happen. So there's like a bit of a blur to it for me. Like there's like the moment that, like with most kids, where your grandpa does something silly, like blows his muscles up or pulls a
Mhm.
coin from your ear. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And and then you watch a magic special with them, and that kind of plants the seed. And then there's other moments like in Albuquerque, being a kid and maybe like 6 years old and looking out my window and seeing the balloon festival, just all these balloons in the air and thousands of balloons just floating throughout the air. It's like, how is this possible? It must be magic. uh I got really into skateboarding when I was a kid, and I think it was because to me it was like, how is the skateboard sticking to their feet? Like, it seemed like a magic trick. How are they jumping over that shopping cart? It seems unreal. uh
Wow.
so there was always like these moments of astonishment that I was just drawn to. And then when I was 12 years old, I fell through the rabbit hole completely. I met a magician in Albuquerque named Paul Cockrell. I just talked to him today, actually. We're still really good friends. And Paul had showed me shadow coins, which was, like a David Roth trick where it looks like you're just waving your hands over coins and they're jumping from corner to corner. I had no idea that sleight of hand like that looked like that was possible. So I fell in love with the art entirely. And from that day, it just was like every day I was always trying to learn. Paul had recommended that I got Bubbles Coin Magic. So I was able to, I didn't really read a lot at that point. So Bubbles Coin Magic was sort of like my, all right, kid, it's time to learn. And, yeah. So just the passion of like wanting to learn magic made me like learn how to read and become more educated because I wanted to become a better magician.
Mhm.
So from there, there wasn't a lot going on. We ended up moving to Roswell, New Mexico, and in Roswell there just wasn't a much of a magic scene at all. And so I would call Paul and ask for advice, recommendations, that kind of thing. And eventually we came to visit Madison, and around that time, I started calling magicians like all around Wisconsin. Just say, hey, I'm this kid from New Mexico. I want to learn magic. How can I learn? Is there classes that you can give me? Things like that. Um, I didn't have much. It wasn't very professional about it, so most of them just kind of politely told me, thanks but no thanks. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
so a few years after that, I found the Magic Club. And then, I had a group of friends that, I would talk to. And um, mainly, though, it was like, the kid, like there would always be like somebody else at my high school that would take an interest. And then we would talk back and forth about magic if possible, and get really excited about the new trick or whatever. And then we would go like take trips to the mall, and maybe like 13, 14 years old, get a ride to the mall and go walk around doing magic in the malls like David Blaine, because we thought that was that's how you do magic.
Yeah, that's exactly how you do magic.
So yeah, then at like 15 I got really lucky because I got a job at TGI Fridays doing magic walk around
Oh,
close up.
wow.
So yeah, it was like one of my first jobs. I thought I had made it. And then we moved back to New Mexico because my mom couldn't handle the weather. And so we were there until I was about 17 or so, and moved back. I moved back to Madison and just started pursuing magic again. And from there it was I maybe it was maybe on pause for about a year or so. I had gotten a job at the Marriott as a cook. I was like an omelet chef, and I didn't really know about like magic conventions or get-togethers or anything like that. And I was cooking one day, and one of the guys came up to me and said, "Hey, there's like a big magic convention in the back over there." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Big magic conference." And there's no such thing. Like, I'm into this stuff. Like, what are you talking about? And so, because I'd gotten the job doing magic tricks, so they knew I was a magician. And
Nice.
so,
Do you
uh,
make omelets appear?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, no, I think I showed him a video of me throwing knives blindfolded. That was like,
Oh, love it.
hey, can I, of course I could chop stuff. Check out the video. So, so yeah, I ended up, this is probably a story I probably shouldn't tell, but whatever. It's fine at this point, I think.
Definitely. You got
Uh,
to. Yeah.
So I snuck my head into this convention, and it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. There's magic everywhere. It just was like this whole other world. And I, ended up entering in the magic competition. And I found the video the other day. I couldn't believe it. I'm like 19 years old. I got dreadlocks. I look, like a totally different person. Come in with dreadlocks, and I enter this magic competition. I'm doing my muscle pass and whatever. And I thought it did okay. And so it was funny because afterwards I asked the guys, I was like, how do you think I did? Like, this whole thing is just so surreal to me. And they were like, "Man, we know you snuck into this place, right?" I was like, "Oh, I well, just tell me where to go pay," or that. I was like, I just got so engulfed in the whole thing that I just thought, okay, it's my turn.
I
Uh,
love it.
so yeah, the next year, of course, every year after that, I made sure that I got registered first.
Do you remember what the name of the conference was and if it still exists?
It was called the Houdini Club, and it's like a Wisconsin convention here, and so it's still around. It's just a little bit smaller, but that year was pretty major. We had some great talent, and so it was super inspiring. And yeah, from there, I connected to a lot of the Milwaukee magicians and that Milwaukee scene. And maybe a few years after that, I got a job at a magic shop in this West Town Mall in Madison, and was just doing magic. It was like kind of like college for me because I was doing magic like 8 hours a day.
Yeah, that's a
And
great way to practice.
yeah, it was really great. At the time, I still get the shakes. Like when you're first going, you get shaky sometimes. Especially even if you're not taking care of yourself. Sometimes you get so into show mode, you forget to like drink water or eat food, or like really just the basics of taking care of yourself so that you are can perform at your top ability. But but yeah, so I got a job there, and that's where I kind of got over the shakes and got more comfortable just doing what I was doing. And yeah, that was a good kind of start for a lot of stuff. Used to have a ton of fun, like taking watches and then making them appear in like a watch kiosk, kind of like a David Blaine thing, because I knew the girl that worked at the watch kiosk place. And it was hilarious because I stopped
Smart.
getting crowds. I was getting crowds for a while. And I remember one day I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like now I can't pull a crowd. And I went into um the food court, and I overheard the security guards saying, "Watch out for the magician. He'll take your watch. He'll steal your watch. He really will steal your watch." And then they'd walk away like, "Okay, thanks." And I went up to the security guards. I said, you got to tell him I give it back, right?" So I figured out what was happening.
Oh,
Yeah. So one day I was at the magic shop, and this kid was like 9 years old, maybe 8. He might have been a little younger. I feel bad thinking that I would have done this to a kid that was that young. I was maybe 19 at the time. So anyway,
it's fair. It's fine.
yeah. Every time I would go build a crowd, he knew that there was a drawer that we kept all the secrets to the magic tricks. And so every time we go build a crowd, he'd go and jump into the drawer and look in there and try to figure out what was going on. And I couldn't blame him. He's a kid, but he just wasn't supervised most of the time. So anyway, I kept telling him, I said, "Hey, you got to watch out. You got to stop doing that. You keep looking in there, your eyeballs are going to fall out," which is a Eugene Berger line, that he used to say, like, "Don't look in the box, your eyeballs will fall out." And I was just riffing one day, and so the kid came back and did it again, but I was ready for him. I had some fake eyeballs that fell out, and so as soon
Love
as he
it.
looked up, I was like, "Ah, we're reaped." so, yeah, so he never went into the drawer again. Um, but
Yep.
but yeah,
Fantastic.
but it was anyway. Uh, but the magic shop days were great, and then after that, I found out about the World Magic Seminar at the magic shop from a magician that had came to buy some things, and so I had to find out what it was about. So I a dollar in a dream, went to Vegas. Was supposed to go stay with a friend of mine for like 2 weeks. So I'm like 20 years old at the time, mind you. Supposed to go stay with a friend of mine for like a week and a half. He said, "Oh, you can come stay with me, and you can go try your stuff at different places and see if you can get some things going." Sounded really like exciting. So got out there. I had enough to maybe be at a hotel for like 4 days,
Oh
and
wow.
And so I was at the hotel for 4 days, and then I called my buddy, and it's crickets. He just disappeared on me. And so I was like homeless in Las Vegas for a week and a half. Like a week, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, as a
What?
kid. So there was like an interesting bit of a wake up. Yeah. But at the same time it was incredible because I met some incredible magicians, and the way that they were towards me just was so like heartwarming. Just to see that, even though the situation that I was in, I didn't let them know or anything, but they
Right.
they were still like, you speak our language, so come sit with us, and so yeah, I learned so much during that convention and just in Vegas during that period of time, and I came back the next year, and I got third place,
Oh
and it,
wow.
yeah, like the close up competition. And I had no clue, like, even how huge that was at the time. Like, it was a big deal. The World Magic Seminar, there was a lot of like movers and shakers there. So, um,
Yeah.
it's like when you win an award, you're like shaking Penn and Teller's hand and Lance Burton's hand. I think it was Chris Angel at the time. It was like,
Oh wow.
so it was like, it felt like, wait a second, I think I could really do this now. I think I can maybe make a shot at going pro. And so came back to Madison, started trying to get shows, and eventually started bartending, which was really kind of helpful for developing the ability to just start conversations and
Mm.
try to be likable and casual conversation and such. So after I got a job bartending, well, no, actually, rewind. I didn't get a job bartending at first. I went to go see Mark at the Safe House, watched him do a set. He destroyed, and I asked him if he would mentor me, and he said yes. And
Mark who?
Mark Bond, he was a magician in
Okay.
Milwaukee, killer magician, unbelievable close-up magician and stage magician too. He inspired a ton of us in Wisconsin. Ben Sideman, Brett Daniels, like a lot of
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Good group.
yeah, a lot of really great magicians. And so I asked Mark if he would mentor me, and he said yes. And so he got me a job at the Safe House doing bar magic. And as soon as I got a job at the Safe House doing bar magic, it was like all these other places that I tried to get a job bartending at, like, wanted me all of a sudden. And so I started, bartending at the other places and doing magic there occasionally. But yeah, then it was bar magic at the Safe House for maybe 2 years, just developing the act. That was really great too, because those were like 5 hours a night of just doing magic and, for different groups. And so I was able to develop like a bar set at that point. And then it was California. Then I had a friend that I had made at the World Magic Seminar. If I'm just talking way too much, let me know. If I'm just
No.
rambling. I'm like,
So you might think that you're rambling, but this is exact. I'm listening, and it's what I want to hear. I don't know if you know this, but you're answering all the questions that I would ask without me having to ask them.
okay, sweet.
So yeah, you're not actually rambling. You're basically just providing like incredible content. You're answering all the questions that I have. Like I was going to ask, how often do you have to practice to keep your skills up? And things like that. And you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, practice at a bar for 5 hours. That's a really good kind of way to do it.
Oh yeah.
Why don't we we'll answer some questions, so it'll be there, but let's get back to where you were and to kind of taking you from where you were to where you are now. So you're bartending, you're doing magic, you're practicing a butt ton, you're winning awards, then you move to California. Then what happens?
Yeah, so I had made a friend at the World Magic Seminar who had placed first place the year that I had my I was out and about and couldn't, the year that I was homeless for like a
Your
week and a half.
homeless year.
Yeah, my homeless year. He was super cool, and we stayed friends throughout that whole period of time, and his name was Nathan Gibson, incredible close-up magician. And at the time, he was like the junior achievement award, and won the World Magic Seminar, and won a ton of competitions before he was like 20 years old. He was like 19 years old. Just so talented. anyway, Nathan was like, you got to move to California. You got to come out here. And so, I said, okay. so, so I saved up some money, moved to California. Nathan and I were roommates, for a while, like a year and yeah, so during that period of time, it was just great. All we did was practice constantly. It was just like it was like a jam session that didn't stop for like a year.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And so then, yeah, I mean, we just had a ton of really cool experiences at the castle. Nate had a ton of friends that were like legends in magic. So I got to meet like his mentor, who was Martin Lewis. And uh, just you get to see a lot of acts at the castle, which I think is
Oh
really cool
yeah.
as well, because you learn so much from that. I'll never forget the first time Nate and I saw Danny Ortiz. Like we stood up out of our chair, just like you couldn't believe it. It's just so cool. Um, and just yeah, so the castle was great because it taught me like what a good stage show was supposed to look like too. Because I only knew about close up. That was only really all I had been exposed to, especially because television, that was really all you saw at the time.
Yeah.
And so I started to realize I needed to work on a stage act. That was one of the things that Martin was really adamant about. He was always like, you have to learn how to put a stage show together if you really want to become a professional, because it's really hard to make a living as a close-up magician. That was Martin's thing. We were really stubborn, hard headed about it. We kept trying to prove him wrong, but it was really difficult.
I think you
uh,
might have had a point.
yeah, you did. I mean, it really is. It was so true, and it still is true. It's really important to try to put together like a 45 or an hour of stand up. It changes people's perspective of you too. Like they see it as more valuable. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Okay.
I remember as a close magician, they used to drive me nuts because you do like your best stuff, and they'd be like, "Do you ever dream of like being on a big stage?" You're like, "Dang it."
Dang it, I'm doing what I
Uh,
want, Mom.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
I just want to see you on a big stage before I die. That's all.
Right. No, exactly. And that's how, I mean, almost everybody sees it as like, that's the goal, they think, is the big stage. So they don't really, understand it. But I mean, years ago, I think a long time ago, it used to be kind of that way. Like, I think close up used to be the way to get people into the theater, like in
Hmm.
30 days and stuff like that. Well, at least from what I gather from some of the older books, when I read them, it seems like that. But the old books are great too, just for like cool, advice on how to do close up. Like one of the things that I took from a lot of the old books was called salting the room. It's like
Okay.
a phrase that I think Masculine and Avant came up with, where it's like essentially you just leave like close up props around the room. You just sprinkle them around the room a little bit. So when I get to the gig, it's like, if I'm doing stuff, it seems like it's coming from the bar or from this table or,
Okay.
somewhere.
Nice.
So yeah, it's hilarious to see the bartender's face when you do Healed and Sealed with one of their Coke cans,
Oh my God. I wouldn't be expecting that unless they. How do you keep them from using the prop before you get a chance to use it yourself?
Oh, I switch them out. I've
Okay.
got ways of doing stuff kind of live, so I can grab it from them and then go into to whatever. But yeah, I mean that's a really powerful thing, because when you're like ahead, that far ahead, it's unbelievably powerful. Like, even something appearing across the room or anything like that is really strong.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, stage show, Martin, okay, so the castle, and then after the castle, um, my girlfriend got pregnant at the time, and so we moved back to Madison. So it was a better place to raise a child and such. So
Agreed.
yeah,
100%.
exactly. So yeah, maybe a couple years after that, I'd gotten a job at a casino here called Ho Chunk, and Ho Chunk was, it's like it's a big casino out here, and it was like an amazing opportunity for me at the time because they were like willing to sign a contract for like the year. So it
Oh
would be
wow.
like a purchase order. You'd sign the contract at the beginning of the year, and then you'd just be there every Saturday, for the year. And then the second year, I had gotten a gig at a steakhouse called the Capri, and so I was doing magic on Fridays at the Capri, in the casino on Saturdays, and doing private parties in between. And a few, maybe like 4 years after I had been doing the Capri, the casino asked for a few more days. And so, it was just they're, um, they paid really well. So, anyways, at the time they paid really well. In my mind, it was a lot of money, so I was like, okay, great. So we ended up doing,
Done.
yeah, we ended up doing like 2 days a week and then to 3 days a week because I was doing other locations like Wittenberg, etc. And so, yeah, for years I got to just do magic at the casinos in Wisconsin and like be able to tuck my son in at night, and I didn't have to travel. It was really an incredible.
That's
Uh,
almost a dream job.
it
You
really
you
was, and
have
I,
you
I
have a
didn't.
stage show right there.
I had no idea how lucky I was, and I think part of it was because I wasn't in communication with so many of the magicians anymore, and the
Hmm.
magicians that I was in communication with were like blowing up. It was like it was unbelievable the stuff that they were accomplishing. But at the time it was like I didn't get how cool that was. And it wasn't until years later I would talk to friends of mine that were going through other things, and they were like, no, like I was doing this and this and it was a struggle and that. So it was like, wow, I was really lucky because I got to work on new material all the time too, because at the casino my goal was to try to learn a new trick every week. And it's not always a good plan, but it's okay, I think, if you have your core already, like if you already have your
Hmm.
your go-to 20, 30 minutes of close-up in any situation, and your 45 or whatever for stage, then I feel like it's fine to explore and learn, and it constantly pushes you to find new ways of connecting ideas. And then when you find those things, it like brings great joy. um so yeah, like the casino was really good for developing material, and just trying to get comfortable with with really trying to not go into like a magic mode. Like I had another I had a lot of people I learned from. I was really lucky. Like even when I was in LA, there were a lot of people that would give me advice that were great. Like one was Andrew Goldenhirsch. He would give me advice sometimes, and one of the things he used to say to me was to not go into like magician mode, you know. And it's like it's really easy to like Dana kind of explained it in the podcast too, where it's like you switch your personality almost
Yeah.
because you're kind of going into this like persona of what you think it should be
Right.
versus like you
What you
actually are.
exactly, instead of being yourself, you're like, okay, here is the egg.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
exactly. So, so it made it impossible for me to do that because I was performing, like so it was so interchangeably that that I couldn't get away with that and still come across genuine or authentic. And
Yeah,
yeah,
actually, that is something I do want to talk about. You seem so comfortable. You've been on camera a lot. You've been on TV, you've been on Broadway. But when I see you on video, you seem very comfortable. How did you develop like your ability to seem so cool under pressure?
it's I don't wow, I don't know. I feel like I'm not sometimes. Like it
That's
depends
actually
on.
what I was curious about. That whether
Yeah.
you are, because you do come across as very like very even keeled. You've got a great voice. You've got great stage presence, even on a camera. That doesn't always translate. So I was wondering if you put effort into that, or is it just something that just happens?
I mean, there's effort into it for sure, but I think I'm sometimes, I think a lot of times we are our own worst critics, or we're very critical of our own stuff. But I definitely do work on it. Like one of the things that I used to do was like record my voice, and that was something that I kind of got from Eugene Berger,
Mm.
because he would talk about just like really just analyzing your voice and the way it sounds, and is it captivating, and are your stories, do they come across truthful, are they, um and those types of things. So recording my voice was helpful because in the beginning, when you start doing that, you realize you don't sound anything like you think you do.
Yeah.
And so there was that was helpful, and then I started to try to also record myself on camera, and that reveals a lot. At first you avoid it, like I avoided it for a long time, but it teaches you so much. It's unbelievable. Even now when I go back and look at footage, there's always things that I find or that I see that I would do a little differently. But
Ju-
a lot of it is like being comfortable is what is really the goal. Like what you just said is the key. That is, I think, the way um to like I think there's like ways of framing things in your mind that make it more palatable for an audience. Like being comfortable versus, I think Max may even said something like this, where it's like the goal is to not strive to be confident, but to strive to be comfortable.
mm,
And so when you do that, like you come across confident, but you don't come across like you're trying to be extra special or something, you know? Um, and then another one that helps me a lot is when I was on Fulas, there was something that Mike Close taught me that was huge. And one of the things he said to me when I was kind of nervous and in my head about getting on a show was, you have to look at it like you had carved out like this amazing piece of art you've been working on your entire life, and now you're presenting it to them, to your friends, your new friends. Like, why won't they like it? Why wouldn't they appreciate that? You know? And that seems like for me that was like so hard for me to like come with on my own. But when I was able to kind of put myself into when I was able to kind of put that perspective, when I was able to see it from that perspective, it calmed my mind a lot, because it's like a comedian committing to a joke or something. Like you have to believe that they are going to want to see what you're showing them. And I think that's one of the easiest pitfalls as a performer, is to get into this insecurity of like, oh, I don't think they're going to like this. I hope they like this. I hope they don't, not like this, because then you start to like overcompensate, talk too fast, you shuffle your feet back and forth, you don't stay centered, um, those kinds of things.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely something. And I watch a lot of Penn and Teller. I usually watch the clips as they come out, because a lot of the people I interview are on Penn and Teller. What is interesting about your act on Penn and Teller is you did seem a lot more confident than a lot of the other people. Maybe it's you're used to bigger crowds, because I know you did Abracadabra on Broadway, right?
Abracadabra, yeah, the abracadabra helped a lot, because
Yeah.
that trick was in it. And it was different in Abracadabra because there was like an opening sequence that I was doing that wasn't mine.
Mm.
That was a close friend of mine's routine, Alex Geyser, coin genius, killer magician. Um, but so that whole opening sequence of shadow coins happens in my hands at first, and then it goes onto the mat. And then
Uh,
that whole sequence in the hands is actually so much harder. It's actually like that's the part that's like, hands down, take please. Like, that's the part that kind of is nerve-wracking about that whole routine. Then it would go into the mat, and then there's, the vanish at the end. So I had done that in front of like 1,000 seats, like maybe 7 times. And before that I rehearsed it so much for that tour that I was so comfortable with that piece by the time I got on the show that I literally had done that piece like in my sleep, because when we were on tour, we were working like 18 hours a day. So there were nights
yeah.
where we'd sleep like 4 hours and then go out and do the show, and you're just like a zombie, but you're going through your stuff. And that's why theater and TV were so good for me too, because they don't really let you improv. And at the
Mm.
time, I was like, my whole thing was being at the bar or whatever and just making my magic conversational. And when you get on a TV spot, you're like, yeah, I'll say some opening words. And they're like, what exactly are you going to say?
Oh, geez.
And you're like,
Yeah.
well, I just some cool stuff. They're like, no, like we need an exact, and you got to hit the lines perfectly, because come on, this is television. Uh,
Wow.
so that changes things. And then in the theater too, it changes things because, you have to know where you're going to stand.
Yeah.
You have to know where people are going to stand. You have to learn how to spike a stage. You have to learn how to, work with music cues.
Where
Like,
did you learn that, or did you learn it once you got the job?
I mean, a lot of that was like you learn by being around it. I would stay there and watch people as they were working on stuff too. Like I learned a lot from watching. you know, like if Sperry was lighting something like Big Illusion or something, I'd sit there and he would let me like,
Mm,
you know, kind of watch and work on it with him. And so even if I wasn't performing an illusion, I wanted to know the aspects of all of the theatrical work. And so yeah, a lot of it was just being around other magicians like Jason Byrne was a great you know, was really great at, you know, he just kind of took me under his wing a little bit as far as like showing me what a lot of the stagecraft is, you know, like a lot of the stuff that he learned from Joni Spina and um just how to, you know, create angles and you know, when you're
mm,
doing something like you want to build tension and like an illusion, like moving like you're like with more tension almost, like yeah, and sometimes that's really great in close up too. Just moving like deliberately, like really kind of slowly and deliberate with everything. Like sometimes you'll see magicians like blow on something really fast and like make it change. I think it's like better to kind of Copperfield it where you like blow on it slowly so they know that's what you did and then it changes. Like it's
yeah.
I love that finesse. Like we just mentioned Alex Geyser, he's got a finesse like that. And it's it's sort of like stuff I read about years ago in like Paul Harris books and stuff where you talk about like it's like moving through a jar of honey or something.
Oh,
And
wow. That's a great way to look at it.
yeah, because like right before the moment hits, you just kind of slow it down just a tiny bit and have like a slower sort of finesse, and then the reveal hits. And you know, I remember you know watching stuff with you know Di Vernon talking about just the way that you turn over a card can change the way that it affects a group of people. So he goes over the different types of ways of turning over a card. And one of them is slowly moving towards the card, pausing right before you turn it over, and then turning it over, where it's slowly like, you know, where the back is towards them, and then, you know, you slowly reveal the face. You know,
Hmm.
and so that actually does change the effect of a lot of magic tricks. And so I always love to watch sleight of hand artists that are really good at being deliberate. And one of Geyser's sayings, he always says, I hope he doesn't get mad at me for sharing this, but he always says, if it's not slow, it's got to go. And I love that.
Oh, that's good. That's a great advice for all of us. I think a lot of new people, myself included, like to tend to rush through stuff. But yeah, sometimes it's like you slow down so you can get a really good reaction and it can sink in.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to be have a faster pace, but I think it's great if you can deliberately slow something down in order to build tension and then just let it go, boom, you know, and the release. Because I don't know, for me, some of my favorite magic is the stuff that has that like that moment of like like nah like for real like what like this can't it can't be like you know, and then it hits it's like the coolest you know feeling because I think at that point it triggers like a chemical reaction in your body or something.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It absolutely. I do want to ask a little one more thing about the coins across that you did in your in I guess every stage show. I really thought it was really unique to actually put the pad on your lap. What led you to that not having a table and just having it on your lap because it allowed us to visually see it a lot easier, but also it felt more intimate the way you did it.
Shit. Yeah, you know, part of the I have like a lot of different like endings to shadow coins. Like one of you know, I'd showed them a few different variations, but they really liked the on the lap version. And part of the reason why, uh, you know, part of the reason why the lap is so helpful is because it hides the method too, like
Mm,
for the banish, you know, and that's like the reason why I can in because the you know it's kind of obvious that I'm using black art, but the cool thing is that it ends clean, and that
that,
only is
yeah.
possible because I'm sitting down the mat, you know.
Yeah, it's so clean. It looks so good.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, no, so yeah, part of what drove that was the method. And I wasn't the first person to do shadow coins on the lap. There's been other magicians that have done it before me, like probably like several, like Chris Korn, I know is one of the guys. Jason um Jason something, I can't remember his name now. Jason Bourne, I think, is his name.
Yeah, I
No,
thought you were going to say Jason
no.
Statham. Oh,
Yeah,
you
no, I think
took
he has
my
the same name.
coins.
I think he has the same name as the actor. Yeah. So then, and then, who else? Andrew Goldenhurst did it on his knees. There's other guys
Wow. Okay.
that have done that before. So yeah, I was hoping the compliment was going to come from the Vanish, because that was the part that I had worked on the most,
It was
I was
really
hoping,
good. No, it was all really good, but it's
and I was kind of
the
hoping they were going to be like, "Oh, it's a black art," and then I was going to be like, "You want to take a look at the mat?" But it just,
oh,
it all worked out well. Though it was great. But
props to the CW for putting magic on TV.
yeah, what's changing
Because
magic in the coolest way possible. I think it's great for magic, and I see like some of the coolest acts come from Fulas, and people are creating incredible magic to do Fulas.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree. I think it's really a special thing that's happening in magic right now, just because of that particular show is really special. And what's really cool about it too is working with them is like amazing. Like you know, I had a chance to do a few other little TV spots like news and whatever, but it's usually very, very high pressure and like
Mm.
stressful and a lot of pressure, but they're like unbelievable at like zenning you out before you go on stage. I
Oh
think that's why
wow.
I'm able to like get into that space because they're really good at making the acts feel comfortable. And I think a lot of times on television, people don't realize that as a magician, it doesn't help to like try to freak you out right before you go on stage.
Like there's going to be a bunch of people all staring at you.
Yeah, yeah. Don't be frazzled or confused. You're not wearing those shoes, are you?
Yes, it's like oh well they go to you and they're like, well, that was a choice.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So,
Actually, that does lead into a question I have. Is you have a fantastic sense of style. If anyone that goes to your website can see that your style is very good, and dare I say, you have a good amount of panache. How do you decide what you're going to wear before you perform?
um, I guess it depends on where I'm at and like what I think the audience is going to be like. It makes a difference. I do a lot of corporate work now, so a lot of my stuff is like business casual, or I still wear suits. And it's interesting because a lot of corporate is not wearing suits anymore, and I can't believe it because I was, I was in my 20s like before I bought my first suit. I think I bought it for the castle.
You have to wear it there. That's the one place.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting that now that's like the comfort for me is to like kind of be in a suit a lot of times. But as far as performing, especially corporate, because I can kind of dress down a little bit if I need to. But if it's theatrical, it's usually just whatever I would normally wear in like everyday life, because I feel like it's better to be like a character and like bring them into your world more than to um try to blend in. Whereas like at a
Oh,
cocktail party, I'm trying to blend in more, like because I'm trying to almost create that impression of we're just having a conversation, like almost like I'm just having a conversation with somebody just randomly that's there, and then the magic happens.
oh, cool. Undercover magician.
Yeah, they don't know I'm a magician usually at first. It starts off kind of casual, and then it's like, oh, I'm a magician. They hired me to walk around and show everybody magic. If I even do that, sometimes it's just something happens, and then what, and then was he, what's going on? And then before like no, yeah, like they he's supposed to be here. He's one of the acts, and it's sometimes really fun to do it that way, just because you get a different kind of audience when they see you as a peer or as a guest.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Well, yeah, it's really powerful too because I I used to when I did strolling I always used to walk around and I would stand up and stand by the tables and stuff. And Eugene Berger gave me great advice one day, and he told me that I should sit down, and it's because it gives a different impression to the people. And at the time, I couldn't wrap my brain around that because in my
Mm.
mind, I'm like, they're paying me hundreds of dollars. I can't sit down. My perception of all of like the value of magic was or just like with myself, I guess, was different. But if you sit down with the group, you're not performing at the group anymore. You're performing with the group. You're part of the
Mm.
group, and you're performing for the group that you're part of. So the audience changes, like the way they treat you shifts. It's super interesting.
Wow, I can actually see why that would be super helpful. Um,
But I just thought of something else just randomly
Bring
about
it.
the guest aspect. Another thing I never used to do was I never used to sit with the guests or eat with the guests. But like if you're doing like a stage show, they sometimes will offer you like, "Hey, do you want to eat with us?" And I'd be like, "No," because I'd be nervous that I wasn't going to be nearly as cool as I was during the stage show, you know.
Oh, got
But
it.
but it really is so much better if you can sit down with the guests afterwards and have dinner with them, because then you become like part of their group. And
Oh,
when
wow.
they think of like booking a magician, they don't like we're much more likely to think of you because you're like their friend now, you know.
Oh, what would you tell a younger Matthew Teague if, knowing what you know now, what advice would you have for a younger version of yourself?
Um, wow, I don't even.
I, I know
I don't
that's a
know. I
that's a
guess.
terrible, like, oh, that could be a lot of, there's a lot of things I like to tell myself, but I wouldn't put it on record.
Yeah, I guess that is the truth. There are certain things I can't really say, but I think one of the biggest things is to like trust yourself, you know, um, love yourself, you know, use like gratitude as a shield. You know, when you're grateful, it's just for whatever. It's you know, it's a really powerful way to move through life, and it opens up a lot of doors. I guess I
Awesome.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
What is the most surprising thing that's happened to you during a live show?
Oh, I've had some really wild ones. I remember the first time I flew out for a gig it was like in New York, and this was a long time ago, like 12 years ago. I was terrified, you know, really nervous about it, and I made a crazy rookie mistake. I had like at the time there was these things called like Scentbird. They were like little cologne things you could order in the mail, and they'd send you different colognes,
Oh my
and you
God, I
could,
think I remember that.
yeah, you could like put them in your gym bags or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so I had one of those colognes and I put it in my bag and I flew with it and it freaking exploded.
Oh God.
It destroyed my suit, all my thread stuff, like all kinds of stuff. The whole suit just stunk like crazy. Like I could like underwear, socks, like not like nothing. I had nothing, you know, when I landed. Cards, like everything was destroyed. Um, I had to go. It was the same kind of situation. I had to go buy a suit. I had to go figure it all out. And you know who saved me that day? And like I'm forever in debt to him. Is O's. O's Perlman came and delivered the stuff I needed so I could do the show. It was like this so surreal.
Wow.
And then the craziest thing is I do the show and and I'm thinking, okay, this is cool, everything's going good. And and so, you know, I'm bending spoons and forks and wine glasses and whatever. And so, all of a sudden, I see this manager walking around, and he's looking at all the tables, super distressed, like, "What is going? Somebody is destroying everything. We have to find this person." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" I wanted to hide underneath the table. You know, I didn't want them to know it was me. But yeah, that was
Oh,
like the
that's
first gig.
great. Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. Talk about O's is a very overqualified Door Dasher.
Yeah, yeah. I feel bad because now he's like super fat, like he's killing it. So now it feels like I'm like name dropping. You know who else name drops a lot is Will Smith. You know that guy.
Oh yeah, some people would say he really slaps these days.
Yeah, yeah. But no,
Oh, your best friend Will Smith?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it is crazy cool to see that. Yeah, it's like unbelievable. He's so
Yeah,
good too. Like such a great
my
musician.
best friend and mentor Andy Gladman told me that the other day.
Yeah, yeah. No doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
but yeah, but no, you know, it's funny because I didn't see him for a lot of times. Like, you know, I'd see him like once a year, once, you know, after a while. It was kind of like,
What's he getting up to? I don't see him a lot.
well, I mean, now he's so busy doing like incredible stuff. You know, I don't see him or talk to him a lot anymore either. But it's so cool to see
That's
him
awesome.
just killing it. You know, and you know, he's happy birthday, like happy birthday and stuff. Like, Rose is a good person, like really cool person to know. And so, but yeah, he's doing stuff with the NBA and you know,
Oh
working on
wow.
different things and yeah,
Okay.
NFL. He does the NFL like halftime shows and stuff.
Oh, really? That's
And
amazing.
he was just in Forbes magazine. He's the cover of Forbes magazine right now, actually, for like, you know, just the shows that he's doing, and they're talking about like what he's projecting for the year, and their numbers are like higher than anybody. It's like he's the new,
That's
the new thing.
unbelievable. So
Yeah,
yeah, there's still money in doing magic, I guess.
yeah. I mean, why? He's paying his
Oh,
dues forever, and in New York too. So I mean, it makes sense because he's always been just super good.
oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think everybody has some. I definitely have some of his free stuff from the Penguin Magic website that I signed up for. So
yeah.
it's fantastic.
And the stuff now is like, I mean, the TV spots just kill me. I'm just like, like I have no clue. He fools me all the time.
Yeah, it's Justin Willman, all the TV guys. And it's interesting. It's the TV the way TV is all being kind of the Carbonaro effect. It's like that was the beginning when I started noticing that magic was going through a little bit of a change from like the David Blaine, like, oh, look at this mysterious thing I'm doing, to like these everyman kind of people that are walking around just pulling tea bags out of their eyeballs. So
Yeah. Blaine
it,
is awesome. I got to meet Blaine years
oh
ago,
wow.
because of a trick that I was like a part of creating, and it was so cool to like walk in his office and meet him because he's like he got up, he's like, "Hey, I'm David." It's like, yeah, I know who you
Yeah, we
are.
know who you are, David.
So it's like the inner kid is just losing it, but
Oh, I
yeah,
mean that's yeah.
him today
He
was
was he
surreal.
changed magic by sheer force.
Yeah,
So
no, yeah. Well, his whole just everything about him is he's so good at like that whole thing of just creating tension and release and just
mhm.
drawing people in and being mysterious. And I think like famous magicians, he's the only one I really know that I feel like really still personifies mystery. And like really comes across as a mysterious person. And even when
Yeah.
you see him and like when you meet him, you're like, wait a second, you're even more like this than on TV. It's like you were like born to be a guru or something. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, if he wanted to use his powers for evil, he would be a great cult leader.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, we walked into the office and like the first thing he did was he started like eating raw eggs, and then he started feeding his alligator with like the alligator's like barely missing his fingertips, and we just couldn't stop watching him. Like everything he did was just like, whoa.
What what a surreal thing to do.
Yeah.
That sentence that you just said, I know that those words all meant something, but I've never heard them in that order
No,
before.
I mean, it was a heck of a day, and I will forever remember it.
I mean that's wild.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't even have to do a trick. Oh, like he really he could just be himself, and it's like this.
On it, the trick is how he's still alive.
Still got some other plans in store too. I don't
Oh, I
know.
hope so. I'd like to see some more. I'd like to see some more Blaine stuff.
Oh, he's got a new
Um,
special coming out. I hear too. I think it's I forgot
okay.
what channel it's coming on, but yeah, it's like I saw a clip of him, covered in bees and stuff. So I think it'll be.
Wait, yeah, I did see that was coming out. That looks awesome. Like
Yeah, it looks like another poster. It's like, yeah, sweet.
I'm like, oh,
Looks
this is.
beautiful. Yeah.
I'll watch it because I love that crazy stuff. Yeah, wear a beard of bees. Why not, David Blaine? You be you.
Yeah, for sure, for
At
sure.
this
Back in the
point,
day.
I think he's just trolling us. At this point, you know.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. No, back in the day, it was funny though because everybody used to say, "Oh, you look like David Blaine," and then when I got a chance to meet him, I'd be like, "Yeah, he's my cousin," and then I'd show them the picture, just to be
That's
double and
great.
like from another mother, But it was just like a funny.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, what a thing.
Um, Teague, I just want to thank you for coming on. You've been fantastic. And I'd like to tell the audience to remember to subscribe, like the video, hit the bell so you never miss one of these riveting seconds. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast provider, make sure to follow the show and give a positive review. Thank you to the amazing Matthew Teague for joining us today. And this is Dr. Todd on behalf of the Magician's Workshop, just letting you know that magic is for everyone. So, and oh, by the way, Matthew Teague, where can the audience find you?
Oh, I'm performing at Ho Chunk Gaming in Black River Falls and in Wisconsin Dells. I've got a couple of dates this month out there on Saturdays. I've got a ticketed show coming up April 5th at a place called The Links in Verona, Wisconsin, right out, it's a suburb of Madison. And yeah, besides that, I'm on YouTube and Facebook, and please say hi.
Absolutely. All the billions of people that watch this show, we're going to be a force for good for you.
Oh, thanks. And thanks so much for having me. This has been awesome. I really, yeah, really
Yeah,
appreciate it. And
absolutely.
yeah, really, really cool stuff. And